In this world of throwaway tech, some things, they're just built to last. But what happens when even the classics fall silent? Well, you don't just toss them. No way. You open them up and you solve the mystery. So let's grab our metaphorical magnifying glass because our investigation starts right now.
So here's our subject. This is the Cyrus One. It's an iconic integrated amplifier from the 80s, a true legend in British hi-fi. For decades, this thing has been pumping out amazing music. But just recently, one of its channels went completely dead. So the music has stopped. And that's where our case begins.
So yeah, we're not just, fixing a broken box here. We are absolutely treating this like a classic audio case. We're on the hunt for clues hidden deep inside that circuit to figure out exactly why the music died. And here we are, the crime scene. The inside of any vintage amp like this tells a story. I mean, think about it. Decades of heat, aging components, it all takes a toll. Capacitors start to dry out, switches get all gunked up, and suddenly that perfect path for the sound just isn't so perfect anymore. So, our mission is crystal clear. We have to methodically trace that audio signal through the entire circuit, find the exact spot where it just vanishes, and bring this amazing machine back to life. Now, to crack a case like this, you can't just poke around and guess. No, you need a professional technique. You need a detective's toolkit that's designed for one thing: following the trail of invisible sound waves.
And that technique is called signal tracing. It's a really logical process. Instead of guessing, you feed a known sound, like a pure, steady tone, right into the amp's input. Then, just like a detective following a trail of breadcrumbs, you trace that sound from one stage to the next to see exactly where it gets lost.
Okay, so this breaks it down perfectly. First, you inject a standard 1 kilohertz sine wave. Think of it like a detective's tracking device, right? It's this pure, clean tone that's super easy to follow. Then, step 2, you grab an oscilloscope. That's our high-tech magnifying glass to actually see that signal traveling through the amp. And finally, step 3, you just watch. You watch until that perfect little wave gets weak or just disappears. And boom, that's your crime scene. Now, before we start tracing, any good detective knows you gotta profile the usual suspects. See, experienced techs know that in these specific amplifiers, certain parts tend to be the troublemakers.
And here's our lineup, the top 3 suspects for a silent Cyrus One. First up, you've got the mechanical parts, the input selector and the tape monitor switches. Over the years, their contacts can get dirty, they can oxidize, and that creates a physical roadblock for the audio signal. And our third major suspect, the power supply itself. If the circuit isn't getting the right voltage from the power rails, well, it's like trying to run a marathon with no food or water. Nothing's going to work right. All right, so before we go any further, you've got to check the vitals. It's like step 1 for a paramedic, right? A good tech grabs the service manual and checks these key voltages. I mean, every single part of this amp needs the right amount of power to work. If these numbers are off, the whole thing is basically starved of energy. There's literally no point in even looking for the audio signal until you know the power is good to go. And there's another really common suspect we need to talk about: capacitors. They're kind of like gateways or couplings between different stages of the amplifier. And as our source material points out, when one of these fails, and they usually just dry out over time, it becomes a total dead end. The audio signal literally hits a wall and stops cold. Okay, with our suspects all lined up and the amp's vitals checked out, it is time to follow the evidence deep into the circuit. This is where the real detective work begins. This right here is our map. It's the block diagram from the service manual, and it shows the entire journey the audio signal is supposed to take. See, it comes in on the left, goes through all these different stages, and then exits to the speakers on the right. Our job is to follow our test signal along this exact path. So this journey has 2 main parts. First, there's the preamplifier. That's all about picking the right input and giving it a small, clean boost. If you've got a problem here, you usually get low volume or maybe some distortion. Then it hits the power amplifier. This is the heavy lifting section that provides all the muscle to actually drive the speakers. A fault in here? Oh yeah, that's when you get a completely dead channel. Now, as we're following this path, we have to talk about the dangers. I mean, the service manual itself has these big, stark warnings for a reason. We're dealing with high voltages here, stuff that can be absolutely lethal. So, while this whole investigation is fascinating, this is a very, very clear reminder. This is a job for trained professionals only. Seriously.
So after following the map, tracing our signal, and checking off our suspects one by one, we finally reach the last phase. It is time to close this case. And there it is, the culprit. Our signal trace showed a perfect sine wave going into one specific component and then absolutely nothing coming out. It was a dried-out coupling capacitor, just like our experts thought it might be, acting like a roadblock for the sound. The case is cracked.
But wait, the job's not done just because we replaced the bad part. The final, critical step is a precise alignment. The service manual tells us exactly how to set the bias current. It's a crucial adjustment that makes sure all the components, new and old, are working together in perfect harmony. This is what makes the amplifier perform like it just rolled off the factory line.
And just like that, the music is back. Clear, powerful, just like it should be. You know, this case wasn't just about soldering a new part. It was about using logic and patience to unravel a mystery.
And it really makes you wonder, in this age of disposable everything, what other classics are out there?
Just waiting for a detective to bring them back from silence.